If you've ever experienced a new car or new mattress smell, you've experienced something called off-gassing. If you've ever smelled cleaning supplies or cooked food on a non-stick pan, you've experienced off-gassing too. So what exactly is off-gassing? Should you really be worried about it? And what steps can you take to protect yourself and your family? In the broadest scientific use of the term, off-gassing refers to a process where solids like furniture or liquids like cleaning supplies release chemicals into the air. These chemicals can float around you as a gas. They can also attach to tiny liquid or solid particles in the air like house dust, and the off-gassed chemicals can eventually settle onto surfaces like your kitchen table and off-gas again at a later time. Estimates tell us that in developed nations, people spend almost 90% of their time indoors, with most of that time spent in their own home. Nearly everything in your home might off-gas, including construction material, appliances, furniture, and yes, even your skin, clothing, and hair. Even some artificial things inside your body can off-gas harmful substances like mercury from certain dental fillings. And it happens continuously long after an item is manufactured, and even if you can't smell anything odd. Some of the toxic off-gas chemicals in your home are part of completely natural things like wood, so they're pretty unavoidable even if you live a 100% natural lifestyle in a cave in the middle of nowhere. Other off-gassed chemicals like those found in some glues, pesticides, or paints are added to the floors, walls, and furniture in your home, or they find their way inside your home via contaminated tap water or outdoor air. And further still, many off-gassed chemicals become attached to otherwise pretty harmless things during the course of your day, like tobacco smoke attaching to your hair, colognes and perfumes soaking into your clothing, or cleaning chemicals sticking to a table. In fact, if you've ever had a somewhat foggy residue develop on the inside of your car windshield, well, that could have happened because sticky off-gassed chemicals attach themselves to the glass, trapping dust and other air particles in the process. So why does off-gassing happen? Why do enclosed spaces like homes, cars, and offices have so many potentially harmful chemicals landing on your skin and entering your lungs? Well, it's because a lot of the off-gassed chemicals are called volatile organic compounds, VOCs. VOCs are carbon-based chemicals that easily vaporize, that is, they easily turn into a gas around room temperature and the standard air pressure at sea level. What all of this technical mumbo-jumbo means in practice is that VOCs are natural or artificial chemicals that easily spread into the air around us under the normal conditions we all live and work in. Simple as that. But pay attention, many other chemicals off-gas under other conditions like high temperatures, so cooking using high heat can lead to the off-gassing of additional chemicals. High temperatures are also why firefighters are exposed to so many toxins most of us thankfully will never encounter in large amounts. The amount of an off-gassed chemical in a home depends not only on the properties of the chemical itself, but numerous other factors like temperature, humidity, ventilation, the properties of the object the chemical is emitted from, and the way other molecules in the home interact with the off-gas substance. That means it's really hard to predict with any certainty how much of any one chemical may be floating in your home at any given time without some advanced testing. But we do know that it does happen, and we do know that it can be dangerous enough to affect your health. Some of the major off-gassed chemicals found inside many homes include formaldehyde, emitted by many chemicals added to wooden products, naphthalene, off-gassed by mothballs, furfural, released as natural wood material decays in a home, acrolein, emitted by cooking fats, plastics, and tobacco smoke, and styrene, which is released by plastics. These and many other off-gassed chemicals have been conclusively or partially linked to anything from hearing loss to brain damage to cancer, among plenty of other health-related issues. These off-gassed chemicals can be inhaled, absorbed through the skin, or ingested when they land on your food or your kids put their dirty fingers in their mouth, all of which might increase the chances that these and other health-related consequences affect you over time. Moreover, off-gassing, even from natural products, has been directly attributed to numerous deaths or immediate risks in certain fields like medicine, space travel, and shipping. As for your home, one study found that the overall concentration of off-gassed chemicals inside a home was roughly 15 to 95 times higher than outdoors, especially when the windows were closed for a long period of time. In studies on thousands of houses and apartments in places like Canada and Finland, researchers found that many toxic off-gassed chemicals were present in up to 99% of homes analyzed. That means, statistically speaking, there's a fair chance that you're breathing in many of those toxic chemicals right now. That doesn't mean every one of those chemicals is immediately dangerous to your health, since we don't know their concentrations in your home over time. And it also doesn't mean you should always run to open your windows to let some air in. So what can you do? While hopefully it's unlikely likely that you're exposed to any one of these chemicals in amounts high enough to harm you right away, the long-term health effects of low-dose exposure depend on too many variables to make sweeping generalizations. As for me, the potential for serious medical harm in the long run clearly exists, so I'd rather be safe than sorry, which brings me to the possible solutions to off-gassing. As an obvious disclaimer, this is not medical advice, and please consult a doctor about all of these potential solutions because what I'm about to say is based on scientific research that may or may not apply to every person's unique circumstances. The first and perhaps simplest solution to off-gassing is to just open the windows and let some fresh air in. Alas, if it were only that easy. There are 3 critical things I consider when opening up my windows. Most obviously, some pollutants are more common outdoors than indoors. The air outdoors may be, like when a forest fire occurs, more toxic than indoors, or the air may be clean but full of allergens that will make me miserable. Second, when I open the windows, I may introduce a lot of ozone into the home, especially if the ozone reading for that day is high. Many of the off-gassed chemicals in your home are probably not harmful to your health. But if they react with ozone coming in through the windows, well, some of the harmless off-gassed chemicals can then transform into carcinogenic or cancer-causing substances. Finally, research shows that simply opening up a window or two will only slightly lower the amount of some of the off-gas substances in your home. The reason that opening up a couple of windows doesn't always make a massive impact is because certain chemicals off-gas even faster with open windows. This happens because chemicals tend to off-gas along a gradient from higher concentrations to lower concentrations. The higher concentrations are commonly the surfaces in your home, like walls and tables. So when you open up your windows, the concentration of chemicals in the indoor air decreases, which allows those highly concentrated surfaces to off-gas at a faster rate into the now cleaner air. So much so that this faster rate of off-gassing can make up for a lot of the chemicals that escape outside. Based on the dozens of studies I read, I came to the conclusion that opening up the windows is more likely to make a major healthy impact if 3 conditions are met. 1, the air outside is largely free of pollutants, ozone, and anything a person is strongly allergic to. 2, there are a lot of open windows all over the home, so much so that this kicks up a nice draft. And 3, the open windows are open on a frequent basis to prevent a major buildup of off-gassed chemicals in the first place. However, I do believe that these tactics can be enhanced with the other strategies I'm about to go over. See, one of the flaws with simply kicking up a draft in your home is that this will stir up the dust and the off-gassed chemicals attached to that dust. This is why I vacuum and clean the dust on a regular basis. When I vacuum, I use a vacuum with an air filter that traps dust. Where appropriate, I use a dry cotton towel to clean up surface dust, or one moistened with a bit of water as opposed to an artificial cleaning spray. As for cooking, I try to cook with somewhat lower temperatures to minimize the off-gassing of additional chemicals from fats, oils, and from the cookware and stovetop itself. Many studies have found that non-stick cookware made with chemicals called PFASs off-gas potentially toxic chemicals even at normal cooking temperatures, like when you toast or stir-fry something. But the amount that's off-gassed increases by up to 2,566 times as the cooking temperature rises to 370 degrees Celsius, which would also burn your food. More damningly, even non-stick cookware that's labeled as being free from some of the more toxic types of non-stick chemicals has been found to off-gas those same exact toxic chemicals anyways due to manufacturing-related residues or contamination. So sticking to metal cookware that isn't coated with a bunch of artificial chemicals could be a better idea in some cases. When it comes to laundry, studies on firefighters clued me into one special strategy I took note of. It seems that it's best to wash bulky clothing that's been exposed to contaminants like smoke sooner than later. If you wait too long, it may be nearly impossible to fully wash out the VOCs that saturate the deeper layers of the fabric and then off-gas into the air you breathe in. Another tip is to minimize the use of unnecessarily odorous personal care products, many of which off-gas those odors and other chemicals right into your nostrils. This includes perfumes, colognes, hairsprays, and even some shampoos and moisturizers. Critically, I learned that I have to be extremely careful with the labels on the things I buy. They can be very misleading. For instance, some household products such as paints have labels like no VOC or low VOC. In my opinion, they can give you a false sense of security. Many of these labels have little to do with either the amount, variety, or toxicity of VOCs in household products. So why do such labels exist, and what do they actually mean for your health then? Under the Clean Air Act, the United States Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, regulates a small fraction of the VOCs found in household goods. Specifically, the EPA regulates only the VOCs that react to produce ozone. And that's what many of the low VOC or zero VOC labels actually refer to. This means a product with such a label may have high levels of toxic VOCs, just not the ones that produce ozone. One thing you can do is ask the manufacturer exactly what they mean when they say there are no VOCs or low VOCs in their products, instead of assuming they're automatically super safe for your health. And by the way, if a manufacturer ever tells you that a chemical has no known harmful effects, that doesn't necessarily mean it's completely harmless. It could also mean that there hasn't been enough or any research conducted on the chemical's health effects. Further research just might find a harmful effect, but we can't be sure. Last, but certainly not least, let's cover air purifiers. Air purifiers may be a great way to reduce many off-gassed particles. Again, there are a few important nuances to keep in mind. First, I would personally shy away from most air purifiers that tend to emit or indirectly lead to the production of large amounts of ozone. This includes many plasma, UV, or ionizing air purifiers. As you already learned, this ozone can react with harmless off-gassed chemicals to create cancer-causing substances. Not to mention, the ozone itself can permanently damage your lungs in some cases. Second, I'd make sure the manufacturer of the air purifier has taken the steps necessary to minimize off-gassing of its own. That's right, some air purifiers off-gas a lot of chemicals themselves if they're made out of cheap, smelly materials. Moreover, air purifiers can actually off-gas potentially dangerous byproducts as a direct or indirect consequence of their air filtration process. This includes chemicals like formaldehyde, acetaldehyde, and carbon monoxide. As a key case in point, if after you turn on your air purifier, it then emits a strangely pleasant fruity smell, that could be an indication the purifier is off-gassing acetaldehyde as a byproduct of filtration or simply poor design. Acetaldehyde is suspected of possibly causing cancer. Therefore, I'd look for statements that the manufacturer of the air purifier has taken steps to mitigate these issues in their engineering and manufacture. Lastly, remember that off-gassed chemicals exist in your home's air as a gas and attached to liquid or solid particles of matter suspended in the air. These particles of matter, also called particulate matter, PM, float around in various sizes like PM10, which includes dust, and the smaller PM2.5, which includes smoke. This is why I look for air purifiers that include a HEPA filter for PM10 and PM2.5 alongside a second stage of filtration that uses large amounts of activated carbon technology to basically neutralize or trap VOCs and harmful gases. Filters with small amounts of activated carbon, less than about a kilogram, can lose their efficacy in a matter of 1 or 2 months, even under typical household conditions. In other words, blindly following a filter replacement guideline like replacing it every 12 months may lull you into a false sense of efficacy. While it may seem like I'm advocating living in a bubble, I'm definitely not, unless your doctor thinks that's best for you. We know from studies on immunology that grossly misdirecting hygienic practices to one extreme or another can have numerous negative consequences for our health. All I'm advocating is a consideration of one's own balance of priorities and risks versus rewards when it comes to off-gassing and its control. There is no universal nor perfect solution to off-gassing, but I hope this video at minimum armed you with a wealth of awareness.